Chapter 2692. He took out the boxes of pastries from his origin space and handed them to them. There are a few flavors here. They are all labeled on the packaging. Thank you, Big Brother Gua. Xie Shirsi took the pastries with a smile. She put some into her own Qiankuan pouch and gave some to Fengjiu. Xiaojiu, keep these. Okay. Fengjiu took the pastries and put them into his origin space. I heard some noise outside the residence. Did that person from last night come looking for you? Fengjiu asked. Guo Xining was slightly taken aback. He looked at him and smiled. I didn't expect you to know about it here. That's right, the Li family came looking for you. But don't worry, my father has already gone to deal with it. I didn't come looking for you because of this. I wanted to bring you to see my grandfather so that we can prepare to leave. Fengjiu thought for a moment and didn't say anything. He just nodded and followed him to the front yard. The silver wolf followed behind them, looking around from time to time. When they reached the front yard and saw that its owner had entered, it followed and sat in the corner of the hall. When they reached the hall, Fengjiu's gaze fell on the old man who was drinking tea in the hall. She saw that his breathing was steady, his face was ruddy, and he was full of energy. His white beard and dignified yet peaceful expression reminded her of her grandfather. Although her grandfather was getting younger, compared to his youthful appearance, the kind old man's voice and appearance were more deeply engraved in her mind. Old Master Guo's gaze swept past the Xie siblings and landed on Feng Nine. At first glance, he only felt that this young man in green was very ordinary. His appearance could only be considered delicate, but in the eyes of old Master Guo, who had seen all kinds of handsome men and beautiful women, he could only be described as ordinary and unremarkable. However, it was this unremarkable ordinariness that made him feel that he was extraordinary. If one didn't pay attention to such a young man, it would be easy to overlook him. This wasn't something that ordinary people could do. When he looked at this young man's cultivation, he realized that even he couldn't see through him. He was slightly surprised and stood up, stroking his beard and chuckling. This must be Fengjiu, young Master Feng. I am old Master Guo. If young Master Feng doesn't mind, you can call me old Master Guo. Hearing this, the Xie siblings were shocked. They stood to the side and looked at Fengjiu, then at old Master Guo. An old master of such a high status actually asked Fengjiu to call him Old Master Guo? Compared to their astonishment and the slight change in Guo Xining's eyes, Fengjiu's expression was the same as before, showing a gentle smile. She didn't really call him Master Guo, but called him Master Guo. Haha, I thought it would be just the two of us. I didn't expect that I could travel with young Master Feng. It won't be boring on the way. The old man stroked his beard and smiled. Then he looked at the Xie siblings and said, When we get there, I will find time to visit you. The Xie siblings were stunned. Xie Shirsi didn't respond, but Shai Yutong knew what it meant. He couldn't help being happy and said, That's great. Thank you for taking care of us here. When we get there, old Master Guo and Brother Guo don't have to find a place to live outside. You can live in my house. Chapter 2693. Their voices paused. Old Master Guo frowned. What's wrong? Why haven't they left yet? Old Master, the people from the Li family have started fighting with our guards. The housekeeper said in a low voice. The head of the Li family is getting out of hand, he said in a low voice. He said to Fengjiu, You guys sit for a while, I'll go take a look. This started because of me, I'll go, Fengjiu said and turned to leave. Seeing this, old Master Guo paused. Seeing Fengjiu and the others leave, he called for a hidden guard and gave him some instructions, then followed them out. Outside the mansion, more and more people gathered to watch. They all saw the heads of the Li and Guo families arguing about something at the door. These two families had been in the city for over 100 years. Who would have thought that there would be a day when they would fight? But what was it that made them fight? Hey, do you guys know why the Li family is looking for the Guo family? Why would the head of the Li family bring people here? A man in the crowd asked the person beside him. Hearing this, a man who knew what was going on laughed. What else could it be? Did you see young Master Li? Last night, he drank too much at Ling Long Pavilion and went to flirt with a girl. It is said that the girl had 2 men with her and the second young master of the Guo clan. He failed to flirt with her and was kicked down the stairs. Many people who were eating at Ling Long Pavilion saw it. So that's what happened. Then how could the Li family have the nerve to come here? The first young master of the Li family has never been a good person. Now that something like this has happened, they still have the guts to come here. I heard that the person who kicked the first young master of the Li family down the stairs wasn't from the Guo family. The Li family must have heard about it, and that's why they came to cause trouble. If it was someone from the Guo family who injured him, it probably wouldn't be so serious. That's true. After all, when old Master Li was still in charge, he had a pretty good relationship with old Master Guo. It's just that they gradually grew apart when it came to their son's generation. The surrounding people were discussing, their voices were neither loud nor soft as they reached the ears of the Li and Guo family members. The Guo family head's face sank. He looked at the Li family head and said, "I advise you to suppress this matter. It won't do you any good to make it big." What? Your Guo family even wants to protect someone with a different surname? Who is that kid to you? Patriarch Li sneered, clearly not putting his words in his eyes. Do you think the Guo family doesn't have to give me an explanation for injuring my son like this? Patriarch Guo frowned and looked at him without saying a word. It was only when an indifferent and somewhat lazy voice came from behind that he abruptly turned around to look. He saw a green-robed Fengjiu slowly walking over. His clear eyes fell on Patriarch Li, the expression in his eyes inexplicably carrying a dangerous aura. Patriarch Guo instinctively retreated to the side when he saw this scene, and even when he stood, he only stood beside Fengjiu. The sharp and cold look that flashed across his eyes made him shudder. He knew that this Fengjiu was unfathomably dangerous no matter how he looked at it. Only someone like Patriarch Li who was impulsive and didn't care about the consequences would act recklessly. I was the one who injured him. I wonder, what kind of explanation do you want? Chapter 2694. Patriarch Li narrowed his eyes and stared at the young man in green who had walked out. He glanced at him and saw that the young man's strength was only so. His face immediately darkened and he harumphed loudly. Humph! The cold harumph carried the coercion of a celestial sage cultivator as it enveloped Fengjiu. The powerful aura and coercion caused the expressions of the surrounding people to change. After all, they could see that the young man in green was only at the foundation establishment stage. How could someone with such strength resist the coercion of a celestial sage cultivator? However, Patriarch Guo, who was standing to the side, saw this and a sneer flashed across his eyes. He took a step back and at the same time, he reached out to push the Xie siblings back, so that they wouldn't be hurt by the pressure. Feng Nine, on the other hand, was still standing there. His figure was straight, his expression was calm, and his posture was casual. She just stood there quietly, as if she didn't feel the pressure enveloping her body. Her clear eyes only lightly fell on the Li family head's body. She didn't hear him speak, so she asked again. "Didn't you come here to ask for an explanation? What kind of explanation do you want?" Her gaze turned and landed on young Master Li with a smile that did not look like a smile. "I didn't know that you could ask for an explanation when you fell down the stairs while drunk and took liberties with a woman." Patriarch Li frowned and stared at Fengjiu with an ugly expression. He could not understand this person in front of him. He had attacked him with coercion, but he did not react at all? This was not right. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he would never have thought that this young man was stronger than him. Thus, he only stared coldly at him and said in a gloomy voice, "What right does a weakling have to speak?" "Weakling? Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and softly muttered as if she was thinking about the meaning of this word. After a while, she smiled and looked at Patriarch Li, whose eyes were filled with murderous intent. She said, "Do you believe that I'm a weakling and can make you lie down and unable to stand up? Ha 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 ha. Arrogant child. Today, even if people say that I'm bullying you because you're young, I'll teach you a lesson. I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant." As his unbridled and arrogant laughter rang out, Patriarch Li's powerful spiritual aura surged. He took a step forward and reached out to grab Fengjiu's neck. This Li family head actually attacked that young man. The difference in strength between the two of them is so huge. It's like an adult bullying a child. This is an adult bullying a child. How old is that Patriarch Li? How old does that green-robed youth look? He was probably not as old as his son. The moment he made his move, he wanted to kill his opponent. There's no one else who can do this. Isn't this green-clothed youth a guest of the Guo clan? Why is Patriarch Guo just watching from the side? He probably doesn't want to cause any trouble. After all, the Li family's status in this city is similar to the Guo family's. The surrounding people discussed and looked at the green-clothed youth with some pity. Patriarch Li's first move was a fatal blow. It seemed that the green-clothed youth would die here today. The Xie siblings and Guoxining watched this scene from behind and could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. Although they knew that Fengjiu was not weak, the other party was a patriarch. Could he avoid that fatal blow? Chapter 2695. Just as Patriarch Li sneered and his hand was about to touch Fengjiu's neck, the situation suddenly changed. The sudden change shocked him, and his face turned pale. Fengjiu watched quietly as Patriarch Li's hand that was filled with spiritual energy moved towards her neck. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Patriarch Li's speed was extremely fast. However, in the eyes of a peak immortal emperor like Fengjiu, who was only at the immortal sage realm, Patriarch Li's speed was extremely slow. She only took a small step to the side with her left foot when the big hand was about to pinch her. She slightly leaned to the side and easily avoided his hand. At the same time, she raised her hand and clenched it. Her 4 fingers pressed against the area between the thumb and forefinger of the opponent's wrist, and her thumb pressed against the area below the area between the thumb and forefinger. Just like that, she easily flipped it over without using much strength. The shocked Patriarch Li's face was deathly pale as he let out a miserable scream. Hiss! That shrill and sharp voice suddenly came out of Patriarch Li's mouth. Everyone was shocked, thinking that they had misheard. When the surrounding people looked over, they saw that Patriarch Li's hand was held by the young man in green. Because his hand was twisted outwards, Patriarch Li's body was also in a strange position. The young man in green moved again and lifted his leg to kick Patriarch Li. Patriarch Li's knees bent, and he fell to his knees with a plop. Patriarch Li was easily subdued in a few moves. The crowd widened their eyes in disbelief. Am I seeing things? No, I must be seeing things. Oh my God! Where did this freak come from? Could it be that this young man in green is not a young man at all, but an old monster who has regained his youth? How is that possible? The young man's bone age is obvious. He can hide his strength, but he can't hide his bone age, right? Who knows? Perhaps there are some secret techniques or treasures. Otherwise, how could the Li clan's patriarch have fallen here? It seems like Patriarch Guo already knew about it. Look at his face, there's not even the slightest bit of shock. It's obvious that he already knew about the young man's strength. No wonder Patriarch Guo kept persuading Patriarch Li not to make a big deal out of this. So this is the reason. Everyone finally understood why Patriarch Guo had been trying to persuade Patriarch Li earlier. However, Patriarch Li didn't accept his kind intentions. Patriarch! Father! Patriarch! Only then did everyone from the Li family recover from the shock brought about by the scene before them. They slowly exclaimed and were about to run forward. However, at this moment, Patriarch was shouted in a deep voice, "Everyone, stop!" The aura of an expert surged out, causing everyone to stop in their tracks. All of them widened their eyes in anger and disbelief as they stared ahead. "Release my father! Let go of the Patriarch!" The Xie siblings stared at Fengjiu with their mouths wide open in disbelief. Seeing him fight with their own eyes, they knew that he was really strong. Even Patriarch Li was no match for him? Among these people, the one who was the most shocked, the most incredulous, and the most embarrassed was undoubtedly Patriarch Li. His face was pale, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. One of his hands was pinned behind his back by Fengjiu, and the kick to the back of his knee made his entire leg sore and weak. He couldn't even stand up, let alone resist. Chapter 2696. Young Master, please show mercy. An old voice came from the sky with a sigh. As soon as the voice came out, Master Li, who was being held down by Fengjiu, paled. He raised his head in shock and panic to look in the direction of the voice. Unfortunately, he was being held down and couldn't turn his head to look at the sky, but that familiar voice still made him panic. When the people of the Li family heard that voice, they were also startled. When they looked back, they saw a gray-robed old man sitting on a flying contract beast. Behind him were 5 people. When they saw the old man and the 5 people, the people of the Li family were delighted. "It's the old master, second master, and several elders. It's grandfather. Grandfather must have come to avenge me," the young master of the Li family said in surprise. He waved his hand in the air. "Grandfather! Grandfather!" Only 1 or 2 people were surprised. Why did the old master come out of seclusion? The old master should be in seclusion at this time. Moreover, why did the second master and several elders come? The 2 of them were slightly older, so they thought about things more deeply. Seeing that their old master had come, they felt that this old master wasn't here to stand up for their family head. After all, if he was here to stand up for their family head, then that shout just now would have been a stern shout. For a moment, the 2 of them looked at each other and calmly took a few steps back. The contract beast lowered the Li family's old master to the ground and lowered its body to let the old man down. As soon as the old man came down, the young master of the Li family quickly ran forward. "Grandfather, before he finished speaking, he saw his grandfather's dignified and fierce gaze sweep over him. The sternness in his grandfather's eyes made him shiver, and he couldn't finish his words. The Li family's old master coldly glanced at him, then walked past him without saying a word and walked towards Fengjiu. He saw the green-robed young man holding his son down on the ground in a half-kneeling position. He saw his son's pale face and lack of strength to resist. He saw his son's panicked and helpless expression when he saw him. "Father, father, why have you come?" the Li family head asked in a trembling voice. He didn't expect that his father, who was in seclusion, would come here and see such a scene. At this moment, he felt an inexplicable sense of panic. Of course, the Li family's old man only coldly looked at him and also opened his mouth to reply. However, the imposing aura of a superior made the surrounding people not dare to speak again. They all quieted down and didn't dare to be impudent again. Old Master Li looked at Fengjiu and sized him up with his wise eyes. It was only a glance before he retracted his gaze and calmed his expression. He cupped his hands and bowed. "Young master, please show mercy and spare my unfilial son's life. I will definitely give young master a satisfactory explanation for offending you." Hearing this, although the surrounding people did not say anything, they all gasped and looked at Fengjiu in shock and astonishment. He didn't expect that old Master Li wasn't here to stand up for his grandson, but to apologize. What ability did this green-robed youth have? How could he make the Li family's old ancestor act like this? For a time, everyone's probing gazes fell on the azure-clothed youth. Chapter 2697. Patriarch. The people who came with Patriarch Li quickly stepped forward and helped him up. Patriarch Li pushed away the people who were supporting him and looked at his father. His lips moved and he was about to speak when he heard his father's dignified and cold voice. From this moment on, Li Qingfeng's position as patriarch is abolished. At the same time, his bloodline will move out of the Li family and establish their own family. As soon as old man Li said this, the surrounding people could not help but look at him in shock. Even Patriarch Li and his son had a look of disbelief on their faces. However, the few people who came with old man Li looked indifferent, as if they already knew. The position of patriarch of the Li family will be inherited by my second son, Li Qingcheng. As soon as old Master Li's words fell, the surrounding people couldn't help but look at the calm middle-aged man beside old Master Li. In the future, the Li family will have second Master Li as the patriarch? Every dog has its day. Father, father, I know I was wrong. Father, please give me another chance. Patriarch Li quickly recovered from the shock and quickly stepped forward to kneel down. Old man Li didn't look at him. Instead, he looked at Feng Zhou and asked, "Young master, what do you think of this punishment?" However, before Feng Zhou could speak, young Master Li recovered from the shock and screamed, "Impossible! How can this be?" He quickly walked in front of old Master Li and said, "Grandfather, this kid kicked me and hurt father. How can you help him and not protect us? We are grandfather's descendants." Old Master Li frowned and bellowed, "Kneel!" When the pressure came out, the young Master Li, who was still shouting, suddenly knelt down. His whole body trembled uncontrollably, and he couldn't stand up even if he wanted to. "Apologize to this young master." Old man Li shouted and stared at the two people kneeling in front of him with a sharp gaze. I don't." Young Master Li wanted to refuse but was pulled down by his father. He lowered his head and said, "We apologize." Patriarch Li turned to Feng Zhou and said, "Sorry, we were wrong. Young master, please be magnanimous and forgive us." Although he was embarrassed, he had no choice but to say these words. This was not only because of the pressure from his father, but also because after exchanging blows with the green-clothed youth, he knew that the green-clothed youth was very strong. At the very least, the green-clothed youth was stronger than him. "Apologize." Patriarch Li's sharp eyes on his son. His heart was burning with anger. If it wasn't for his son, he wouldn't think that young man was easy to bully. Originally, he wanted to suppress the Guo family to raise the Li family. Being stared at by his father, Child Li was startled. Seeing that his grandfather was also staring at him, he couldn't help but glance at Feng Zhou. He lowered his head and said, "Sorry, I was wrong." Old Master Li looked at Feng Nine. Seeing that he was silent and didn't speak, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Young Master Feng. Chapter 2698. Feng Zhou glanced at old Master Guo. After hearing his words, she finally understood why old Master Li was here to apologize. It was because of him. Seeing this, she nodded. "All right. Since old Master Guo has said so, I'll let it go." Hearing this, old Master Li breathed a sigh of relief. He stepped forward and thanked old Master Guo. "Thank you, young Master Feng. And thank you, old Master Guo." He smiled and nodded at old Master Guo. "Your eldest son is really bad. If you had been in seclusion for a few more years, your Li family would have been destroyed by him." Old Master Guo shook his head. "Sigh, our family is unfortunate." Old Master Li sighed and said to the two people kneeling on the ground, "Go back and pack your things." The father and son stood up and left with the others. Only the elders and the middle-aged man stood behind the old man. "Old Master Li, I'm going out. I won't be home for a while. I'll find you when I'm back." Old Master Guo said to Feng Zhou, "Young Master Feng, we can go now." Hearing this, Feng Zhou nodded and glanced at the Xie siblings. The two of them walked quickly to his side. Guo Xining followed behind them, along with a few cultivators to protect them. Old Master Guo raised his hand in the air and a spaceship appeared in midair. He gestured for Feng Jiu to board the spaceship. Feng Jiu stretched out her hand and the little silver wolf that was squatting by her feet jumped into her arms. With a light tap of her toes, she leaped into the spaceship. The Xie siblings and the rest boarded the ship one after another. Old Master Guo was the last to board. He looked at Old Master Li and smiled. His words were hard to read. How was it? I didn't lie to you, did I? Old Master Li saluted. The Li family will remember this favor. I'll treat you to a drink when we get back. Ha 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 ha. Old Master Guo laughed and patted him on the shoulder. Then, he jumped into the flying ship and left. After exchanging a few words with Patriarch Guo, Patriarch Li left with a few people behind him. As they left, a middle-aged man standing behind the Patriarch asked with some confusion, Patriarch, what did Patriarch Li mean by that? Patriarch Guo smiled. As he walked back, he said, Father can be said to have helped the Li family avoid a great calamity. What great calamity? Was it because of young Master Feng? The man was confused. Young Master Feng was powerful, but a family with 100 years of history. Why would they be afraid of him? At that time, Feng Jiu wanted to kill him. If the old man of the Li clan had come a little later, he would have seen the corpse of the Li clan. The Li clan wouldn't have let the matter rest. However, if they fought with Feng Jiu, the Li clan wouldn't have been able to survive. Their foundation would have been shaken. Patriarch Guo smiled and continued, Therefore, Father's action can be said to have helped the Li family through a great calamity. If it weren't for Father's friendship with the Li family's old master, he probably wouldn't have leaked the news to him. The man next to him was stunned. What news? Why was he getting more and more confused? Old Master Guo paused and turned to look at him. Looks like you need more experience. How about this? Tomorrow, pack up your things and go to one of the Guo family's businesses as a manager. Chapter 2699. The steward leisurely walked past the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man came back to his senses and hurriedly stepped forward to stop the steward. He anxiously asked, What did the Patriarch mean just now? I only asked a few questions. Why did the Patriarch want to transfer me out in the end? The steward raised his drooping eyelids and glanced at him, then said, Before young Master Feng came out, the Patriarch sent someone to the Li family to find Master Li, who was in seclusion. Although I don't know how the Patriarch got the secret guard to tell Master Li, I'm certain that the Patriarch must have told the secret guard to tell Master Li that his son provoked someone he shouldn't provoke. If it's not handled properly, I'm afraid it'll bring disaster to the Li family. The steward's voice was neither fast nor slow, and he had a calm appearance. Young Master Feng isn't an ordinary person. If Master Li was a step slower, then Patriarch Li would have been dead. If Patriarch Li really died, then the matter would have been serious. At that time, no matter how much the Patriarch Li doesn't want to fight with young Master Feng, he must avenge his son's death. But this would have been troublesome. After all, young Master Feng's strength is unfathomable, and we don't know his background. Who knows if there's a big family behind him? The middle-aged man listened in a daze. Why didn't he think that there were so many crooked things going on? In the aftermath of the battle, even if the Li family can kill young Master Feng, I'm afraid the power and family behind him won't let the Li family go. But if they can't beat young Master Feng, then they'll be killed. This way, the Li family's foundation will be shaken, and a big family will be on the verge of collapse. So, our Patriarch helped the Li family avoid a great calamity. The steward glanced at him, who was standing there in a daze, and continued, So, the information you asked about was this. As a big family, you can't even see through this matter. If you don't understand it, how can you be qualified to stay by the Patriarch's side? It's reasonable for the Patriarch to transfer you out to gain experience. After all, the Patriarch isn't someone as blind as the Li family's Patriarch. Otherwise, why would I be the steward and you aren't? The middle-aged man stared in astonishment as he watched the steward walk away. He couldn't help but take a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He didn't think too deeply about things, and sometimes his brain reacted half a beat slower. After this reminder, he also knew where the problem was. Therefore, he was still holding back his anger. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have asked those questions. At the same time, on the spaceship, Fengjiu had entered a room to cultivate. When the Xie siblings saw him, they went back to cultivate as well. Only a few people from the Guo family were at the bow of the spaceship. Guo Xining poured a cup of tea for his grandfather. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Grandfather, the Li family's old master is in seclusion. How did you get him to come out?" "Hee, that old man Li is in seclusion all year round. How can the secret guards go to his seclusion place? I only asked the Dark Guardian to look for old man Li's second son first. His second son's mind isn't something that can be compared to others. With just a few words, he would know what to do." The old master took a sip of tea and smiled. "So he brought the secret guards to see old man Li. I only asked the secret guards to tell old man Li that his son provoked someone he shouldn't provoke. If he doesn't want to bring disaster to the whole family, he should quickly come and deal with it." Chapter 2700. No, he only believed half of it. Old Master Guo smiled and said, "Didn't you see him riding a contracted divine beast and bringing a few elders with him?" Guo Xining was slightly stunned. "Could it be that he wanted to fight? I know what he's thinking. He wanted to cultivate in seclusion but was disturbed by this matter. If the other party was just a nameless junior, it wouldn't matter if he killed him. At least it would serve as a shock, so he brought a few elders with him. However, he probably didn't expect that his son would be subdued by Fengjiu. Moreover, he didn't even have the strength to resist, which led to the subsequent scene." Old Master Guo looked at Guo Xining and said, "As the head of a family, there are many things to consider. You can't just look at the surface of things. You have to analyze the pros and cons and make the best decision for yourself. Take old man Li for example. He made the right decision at that moment. Not only did he save his son's life, but he also saved his family. Thus, he minimized the damage. It was already the best decision he could have made." Hearing this, Guo Xining nodded. His heart trembled. He wasn't groomed to be the next head of the family, so he had little contact with such matters. Very few people told him about it. It wasn't until this moment that he realized that it wasn't so easy to be in a position of power, to be a leader. That was also true. Back in the forest, he couldn't see through things and couldn't understand things. When he returned home and told his father about it, his father had already guessed it before he finished. Thinking about how Fengjiu went into the side room after boarding the spaceship and didn't come out, he was moved. He asked, "Grandfather revealed the news to old Master Li and made him accept our Guo family's favor. Fengjiu, is it because of grandfather's information that he doesn't want to have too much contact with us?" Hearing this, old Master Guo smiled and didn't speak while drinking tea. In the side room, Fengjiu was indeed cultivating. Guo Xining was right about one thing. She really didn't want to have too much contact with the Guo family. Old Master Guo asked her to save face, and she did. After all, the matter was handled quite well. However, after this matter, the relationship between the Guo family and the Li family would be greatly improved. It was also because of her. Perhaps she didn't like the scheming Guo family, so she didn't want to have too much contact with them. After returning this time, if she got detailed information about the Ladder of Immortality, she planned to leave in advance and go to that place first. In another side room, brother and sister of the Xie family, who said they were cultivating, were staying in a room and whispering. "Brother, does Xiao Jie not like Brother Guo?" Although Xie Shirsi was naive, she was sensitive and felt something. "You noticed it too?" Shai Yutong thought for a moment and said, "He doesn't seem to like them very much. It seems that he doesn't want to have too much to do with them. Otherwise, why would he say that he wants to cultivate as soon as he gets on the spaceship? Why? I think Brother Gua is very good. She didn't understand. Hearing this, Shai Yutong suddenly stared at her and said, I tell you, don't think about him. His family is big and has many people. They are scheming and troublesome. It's better to keep a distance. Xie Shirsi blinked and said strangely, but I remember you were very happy when you heard that old Master Gua was going to visit us. You even invited them to live in our house. Chapter 2701. He originally thought that the Gua family was a century-old family. If old Master Gua visited them, the main family would be very surprised. Then, if outsiders didn't know, they might think that they were on good terms with the Gua family, which was a good thing for their family. However, after what happened this morning, he became clear about one thing. It was useless to rely on others. Only when one was strong could he be valued and respected by others. Sister, do you think Xiao Jiu is powerful? He suddenly asked. Yes. Very powerful. Xie Shirshi said without thinking. Shai Yutong nodded. Well, so we have to work hard to cultivate and become as powerful as him. He also made up his mind that he must work hard to cultivate and break through as soon as possible after going back. With the spaceship, they returned earlier than expected. In the evening, they arrived outside the city before the sun went down. At this time, in the Xie family, the beautiful woman was crying silently with a sad face. In her mind, there had been no news for so many days, so there must be no news. She couldn't help but blame herself when she thought about what had happened to her children. Xie Yan came out from the outside with a dark face, as if he was full of anger. Seeing his wife's sad face, he suppressed his anger and comforted her. Madam, don't cry. You haven't been sleeping well these days and you've been crying like this. Your eyes have been red and swollen for several days. Husband, did you inquire about the child when you went to the Ruan family? The beautiful woman asked with a choked voice. Don't mention it. The Ruan family is really a bad thing. They said that they sent people to look for the child, but there is no news until now. Instead, I don't know what happened in the past 2 days. Their daughter, who was not liked in the family, is said to have some amazing talent and adventure. Her illness, which could not be cured, has been cured. Now the Ruan family is busy looking for teachers and resources for her, and discussing which cultivation sect to let her join. He sat down angrily and said, In my opinion, they didn't try their best to help us find the child. I thought that father was in seclusion, so I didn't want to disturb him. Now it seems that it's impossible. Hearing this, the beautiful woman was even more sad. I'm afraid that even if this matter is reported to the master, he won't be an enemy of the Ruan family for our child who has been lost. Thinking of this, she couldn't help crying more sadly. She blamed herself and said, It's all my fault. It's all my fault. However, at this time, they didn't know that Xie Shirshi ran home first after getting off the spaceship. She hadn't seen her father and mother for so many days, and she missed them very much. As soon as she entered the house, she quickly ran towards the inner courtyard while shouting, Mother, Mother, I'm back! Xie Yan, who was comforting his tearful wife, couldn't help but be startled when he heard this voice. Then, he was overjoyed, it's little Shi's voice. And she quickly stepped forward and hugged her daughter. Were. Were. Chapter 2702. Brother and Xiao Jiu are behind me. As soon as I arrived in the city, I ran back quickly. Mother, I missed you so much. You don't know that I was almost eaten by ferocious beast. I almost couldn't come back to see you. She threw herself into her mother's arms and rubbed against her like a kitten. Xie Yan was relieved when he saw his daughter come back. When he heard that she had been in danger, he couldn't help being worried. But when he saw that his daughter was not injured, he was relieved again. "It's good that you're back." He stepped forward and patted his daughter's head. He could finally put down the big stone that had been hanging over his head these days. When the beautiful woman heard that her son and Xiaojiu were all right, she stopped crying and smiled. "Yes, it's good that you're back." As for other things, she would ask in detail later. Not long after, Fengjiu and Shai Yutong also came back, but old Master Guo and Guoxining did not come with them. According to old Master Guo, it was a little abrupt to suddenly come to the door, so they lived in the small courtyard of the Guo family and said that they would visit again when they had time. Shai Yutong, who had seen through the matter, did not ask them to stay, and returned home with Fengjiu. After all, he was still a teenager. Even though he had calmed down a little after going out for a few days, the moment he reached home, he still broke into a happy smile and quickened his pace. In the end, he also ran inside with quick step. "Mother, mother, I'm back." Hearing his son's voice and seeing him run in quickly, Xie Yan said with some bitterness, "These two children call me mother after coming home. Am I such a failure as a father? Don't you miss me after being away from home for so many days?" Hearing that, Xie Shirsi giggled and held his hand. "Daddy, I missed you, little sure missed you. I even brought gifts for all of you." Hearing this, Xie Yan laughed. Well, Xiaoshu is good. I didn't love you in vain." The whole family finally gathered together. Seeing the two children return safely and Fengjiu slowly walking towards them from behind, even though the children didn't say anything, the couple knew that Fengjiu was the reason why the two children were able to return safely. "Master, madam." Fengjiu stepped forward and bowed. "Xiaojiu, thank you for bringing my children back," the beautiful woman said as she stepped forward and shook Fengjiu's hand gratefully. Fengjiu smiled and didn't say much. He only said, "I'll go back to the courtyard to wash up first." All right. Go back and have a good rest," the beautiful woman said as she watched Fengjiu turn and leave. Only then did the couple bring their son and daughter in and ask about what had happened in the past few days. After understanding the whole story, the Xie couple personally went to thank Fengjiu that night. Although they knew that Fengjiu wasn't simple, they didn't expect him to be so complicated. Fengjiu quickly put this matter to the back of his mind, because the appointed time with the Treasure Exchange Pavilion was coming. Thus, he went out the next day and went to the Treasure Exchange Pavilion. A top-grade pill attracted people from several nearby cities to compete. On this day, everyone went to the Treasure Exchange Pavilion early in the morning to wait. Although they knew that the owner of the pill would come, they didn't expect that they wouldn't even be able to see that person's face. Chapter 2703. She flipped through the materials in front of her and saw that most of them were only small pieces of information. They were not very complete. After flipping through them, she could not help but frown. The manager of the E-Treasure House saw that Fengjiu had looked through the materials and then tossed them back. It was as if nothing caught his eye. He could not help but exchange glances with the old man beside him. After a pause, he asked, "Ghost Doctor, did you see anything that caught your eye? This information is only information that most people know. It is not very detailed and does not match what I want," Fengjiu said plainly. He was not in the mood to continue reading. As if thinking of something, she looked at the manager and the old man. "Is there anyone from the Guo clan among them?" "The Guo clan?" The old man thought for a moment and said, "The Guo clan did not give us any information about the Stairway of Immortality. They only said that they would tell us in detail after meeting the Ghost Doctor." Hearing this, Fengjiu said, "Then let them in. Send the others back first." Thus, the manager went outside and invited Old Master Guo and Guoxining in. Old Master Guo did not seem very surprised, as if he knew that he would definitely meet the owner of this pill. After entering the room, the grandfather and grandson were surprised to see a man in a red robe and a mask sitting lazily on the chair. They thought that the person who could concoct such a pill would be an old man. They did not expect him to be so young. "This is the ghost doctor," the manager said. He left the room for the three of them and then left with the old man. "Please have a seat," Feng Jiu said with a trace of coldness in her lazy voice. When they heard that voice, the two of them felt their hearts skip a beat. They felt that the voice was somewhat familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. "How much do you know about the Stairway of Immortality?" Feng Jiu asked. His gaze fell on Old Master Guo. After the two of them sat down, Old Master Guo looked at Feng Jiu and told her about the Stairway of Immortality. "In the end," he said, "although the Stairway of Immortality can only be climbed by immortal emperors, I went up once before. However, I was beaten down before I could reach the gate." He paused and pulled out an item from his sleeve. "Ghost Doctor, we sincerely wish to trade for that pill. This is a map of the route to the Stairway of Immortality. There are also some important points recorded on it. I dare say that other than our Guo clan, only a few hidden clans or Mount Tai of the three sects would know of this information." Feng Jiu took the item and looked at it. "Of the map." She closed the map and picked up a small booklet with the words barter written on it. She saw that the items she wanted to barter for were 3 rare and precious spiritual medicines. Seeing this, the corner of her lips curled up. "Elder Guo, I like what you picked." Hearing her call him Old Master Guo, surprise flashed across his eyes. He looked at Feng Jiu and said, "He, the ghost doctor is an expert in the art of alchemy. I think no treasure can compare to rare and precious spiritual medicines. Coincidentally, I have a few precious spiritual medicines at home. I will trade them with you." Chapter 2704. Therefore, the old man stepped forward to examine the pills for them and let them take a closer look. In the end, both parties exchanged items. It was obvious that Old Master Guo was secretly relieved when he put away the pills. Old Master Guo and Guo Xining were escorted out. They avoided the gazes of the people in front of them and quietly left through the back door. Feng Jiu also left after paying the commission. She went to a secluded place and flashed into the space. She took off her mask, changed into her green robes, and walked out of an alley. She didn't go straight back to the Xia mansion. Instead, she found a food stall on the main street and sat down to eat. On another main street, the grandfather and grandson pair strolled slowly as if they were taking a stroll. Guo Xining saw that his grandfather's expression was slightly relaxed and he had a smile on his face. He seemed to be in a good mood. Thus he asked, "Grandfather, that ghost doctor in red, did she look like Feng Jiu?" Old Master Guo paused for a moment, then continued walking. His old voice carried a hint of contemplation. "She did look like her, but that person was an alchemist, and an extremely high-level one at that. Feng Jiu's abilities are not weak, so how could he be an alchemist?" He walked slowly, his eyes looking forward. "But that voice sounded similar, but the aura seemed to have changed. That's why I'm thinking, could it be someone related to Feng Jiu? Perhaps it's someone from his clan?" Hearing this, Guo Xining's eyes flashed. He didn't say anything else. That's right. His strength was already so powerful, how could he still be an alchemist? If that was the case, then it was too unbelievable. As the grandfather and grandson pair walked, they saw Feng Jiu sitting at a food stall at a corner. Seeing him, both of them were surprised. "Grandfather, that's Feng Jiu." Guo Xining looked at the green figure at the stall and said, "Haha, what a coincidence to meet you here." Old Master Guo stroked his beard and walked up. "Young Master Feng, I didn't expect to see you here." Feng Jiu turned around when he heard their voices. Seeing that it was them, he nodded. "We came out for a walk and to eat something. Do you two want to eat too?" "All right." Old Master Guo sat down and Guo Xining followed suit. To their surprise, Feng Jiu stood up as soon as they sat down. "Take your time. I still have something to do, so I'll head back first," she said with a smile. After paying the bill, she ordered some snacks for them and said, The food from this stall is not bad. Try it. Seeing Fengjiu turn and leave, Grandpa Gua shook his head and laughed. Is he unwilling to be close to us? I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would be despised by others. Gua Xining didn't say anything. He just picked up the chopsticks and handed it to his grandfather. Grandfather, try it. Thus, after the two of them ate some food here, they returned to the side courtyard, planning to find a time to pay a visit to the Xie family. After returning to the Xie family, Fengjiu went back to the wing room to study the map carefully. He memorized the route and marked what old Master Gua said. At noon, Xia Yutong knocked on her door. Xiaojiu, Xiaojiu. She opened the door and looked at him standing outside, asking, "What's the matter?" Chapter 2705. Hearing this, she shook her head. "No, if you want to go, just go." "Well, I'll go and talk to my mother first," he said, then turned and left. Fengjiu came out, stretched his muscles and bones in the yard, and called, "Silver." The silver wolf in the room rushed out, squatted beside Fengjiu and looked at him. "Let's go. Let's go to the front." Fengjiu bent down and touched its head, then stepped out. He was going to say goodbye to the beautiful woman. In the front hall, after listening to her son's words, the beautiful woman thought for a while and asked people to refuse the people sent by the Ruan family. "I went to the Ruan family and my 2 children were almost lost. It's better to stay away from them," the beautiful woman said, but she was unwilling. "It's just that the 3rd miss of the Ruan family acted like that. I can't let her go like this." Ruan harmed her children, but nothing happened. No matter how tolerant she was, she couldn't tolerate this kind of thing. Xieyan, who was sitting next to her, patted her hand and said, Ruan's temper is like that. Even if we don't deal with her, someone will deal with her in the future. It's not worth getting angry for such a person. What's more, the 2 children are blessed by God. It's enough for them to come back safely. Hearing this, the beautiful woman looked at the 2 children sitting below and smiled. "Yes, my husband is right. It's enough for Yutong and Xiaoshi to come back safely." Xiaojiu is here. Xie, who was sitting below and playing with the spirit beast egg in her hand, saw Fengjiu outside. She was overjoyed and quickly stepped forward. "Xiaojiu, why are you here?" "I'm here for something." As Feng Nine spoke, she looked at the 2 people in the main seats in the hall and said, "Master, Madam, I want to say goodbye." As soon as these words came out, several people in the hall were stunned. The first to react was Xia Yutong. "What? You're leaving? You have no relatives or friends. Where are you going?" Xia Yutong asked in a hurry, obviously not expecting that he came to say goodbye. "Xiaojiu, are you leaving now? We just came back and we're already leaving? Please don't go. Wouldn't it be better if he stayed at our house?" Xie said reluctantly. Xie Yan and his wife knew that he was not an ordinary person and would leave their home sooner or later. It was impossible for him to stay here forever. Therefore, when they heard that he wanted to leave, they were not too surprised. "Xiaojiu, you guys just came back. You haven't even had a good rest. Even if you want to leave, you don't have to be in a hurry." She glanced at her son and daughter and continued, "Besides, they also hope that you can stay for a few more days." That's right. Little Jiu, we haven't been to many places in the city. Even if you want to leave, you should stay for a few more days before leaving," Xie said as she pulled on his sleeve. Her eyes were filled with reluctance as she looked at him. Fengjiu thought for a while, then nodded. "All right then. I'll stay for 2 more days and leave after that." "Then let's go out and play. Let's go to the city to play and find delicious food," Xie said, looking at her brother. "Brother, let's go together." "Okay," Xia Yutong said, and the 3 of them went out, discussing where to play. Chapter 2706. I've been worried about the 2 children these days. I almost forgot that your birthday is in 2 days. Xie said and nodded. Well, you can arrange it. On the other side, the three people who went out of the mansion were followed by a small silver wolf. At first glance, the majestic Wolf King was really like a puppy, wagging its tail and raising its head, following Fengjiu step by step. Its proud and pleasing appearance attracted some girls and children on the street to look back from time to time. Where are we going? Xie Shirsi asked and looked at them. Men rarely go shopping. You have the final say on where to go shopping. Sha Yutong said, looking at Fengjiu. He hesitated and asked, Xiaojiu, where are you going? Will you come back in the future? I have something to do, so I won't come back here. Fengjiu said, walking slowly. Will we see you again in the future? Xie Shirsi asked. Sha Yutong glanced at her and said, he won't come back. How can we see him? Of course, we won't see him. Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled, but did not speak. I see. Xie Shirsi looked at Fengjiu, thought for a moment and said, even if we can't see each other in the future, I won't forget your Xiaojiu. Thank you. Fengjiu said with a smile. Ah, by the way, it's my mother's birthday in 2 days. Let's buy something for her. And I also want to buy jewelry. I heard that there is a big jewelry store in the city. Let's go and have a look. Okay, Fengjiu said. After they inquired about the location, they went there. After shopping, they went shopping and didn't go back until it was dark. However, as soon as they entered the mansion, they heard from the housekeeper that Madame was looking for them, so they went to the backyard. Mother, why are you looking for us? Xie Shirsi ran forward and sat down beside her. The beautiful woman looked at Fengjiu and said, Xiaojiu Yutong, the fourth Miss of the Ruan clan, has sent someone to send an invitation to invite you to her residence tomorrow. Her gaze carried a trace of astonishment as she looked at the two. When did you meet this fourth Miss Ruan? Sha Yutong was stunned when he heard this. Miss Ruan? He looked at Fengjiu and didn't remember for a long time. He asked, do we know each other? Fengjiu's eyes moved slightly. That young girl from the bamboo forest, Ruan Ryun. Oh, it's her. Sha Yutong suddenly understood and said, however, we have no friendship with her. We have only met her once at most. This fourth Miss Ruan is the direct descendant of the Ruan clan with outstanding strength. It is said that her body's hidden disease was cured somehow, and her talent was found to be excellent. Now she has been cultivated as a talent of the Ruan clan. The beautiful woman glanced at them and said, these days when you were away, the Ruan clan took care of a lot of things for this fourth Mississippi. She paused for a moment before continuing, this is the invitation she sent over, and she only invited you. You weren't at home earlier, so I accepted the invitation. You can see for yourselves if you want to go. If you don't want to go, it doesn't matter. I'm going to hold a birthday banquet. You can invite her to our residence then. Chapter 2707. Well, let's invite her to our house. I don't want to go to their house anymore. Sha Yutong said and looked at Fengjiu. What do you think? Is that okay? It's up to you. She was just a person she had only met once, so she didn't pay much attention to her. If the beautiful woman hadn't mentioned her today, she would have forgotten her existence. Well, that's it, Sha Yutong said, and then stepped forward to his mother and took out a gift. Mother, this is the birthday gift I bought for you. I also have, Mother, I bought you jewelry. Xie Shirsi said with a smile, and also gave her something. Hearing this, the beautiful woman laughed happily. It's not time yet, is it? Are you in a hurry to give me a gift? She took the gift and put it away. Mother, don't you open it and see if you like it? Xie Shirsi asked, but she didn't open it. No matter what you give me, I like it. I'll see it when I go back to my room. The beautiful woman said with a smile and looked at her daughter. Didn't you say it was jewelry? You can try it in the mirror when you go back to your room. Then I'll go back to my room with you. Xie Shirsi took her hand and said, I'll go back first. Fengjiu said and left first. Xie Shirsi and Xie Shirsi stayed to accompany the beautiful woman and help prepare for the birthday banquet. 2 days later, in the morning. It was the birthday banquet of the beautiful woman. Early in the morning, the guests came one after another, and the children of the main family also came at the invitation of Shai Yutong. It could be said that most of the people who came today were teenagers. Even if there were, it was only the madams of each mansion who came with their children. The beautiful woman just wanted to have fun and make the children happy, so she invited some familiar people. In addition to 1 or 2 madams of the outer mansion, there were several people of the main family of the Xie family. According to what their mother said, Shai Yutong and Xie Shirsi took on the task of taking care of the guests today, but Fengjiu was nowhere to be seen. As the guests arrived one after another, the 4th young lady of the Ruan family also came. To Shai Yutong's surprise, the 3rd young lady of the Ruan family also came. Looking at the 3rd young lady of the Ruan family, not only Shai Yutong but also Xie Shirsi did not give her a good look. "Brother Xie, it's really you." When Ruan Ruyun saw Shai Yutong, she couldn't help but step forward happily. She came to him like a familiar person and looked at him with a smile. "Brother Xie, where is that brother?" She looked around but didn't see the cyan figure. Shai Yutong looked at her in amazement. The mark of fear on the face of the girl who scared him in the bamboo forest was gone. Her whole face was as smooth as jade, and her delicate and outstanding facial features made her look very different. However, there was one thing that was not quite the same. The young girl in the bamboo forest had always felt inferior because of her appearance, but today, Ruan Ruyun had swept away the inferiority between her brows in the past and became radiant. Perhaps this was what made him feel very different. After all, if he didn't see it with his own eyes, it was impossible to believe that a person could change so much in just a few days. "Please come in. Xiao Jiu hasn't come out yet," Shai Yutong said and asked his sister to take them in. Chapter 2708. When the Ruan sisters entered, they couldn't hide the curiosity in their eyes. "Why is everything in your family placed together?" Ruan Ruyun looked at the various food and wine placed on the tables in the middle of the garden. She couldn't help but find it strange. Were all banquets like this? Her family didn't seem to be like this. After all, her Ruan family had held 1 or 2 banquets in the past few days, and they had been held for her. "This banquet was held for my mother by me, big brother, and Xiaojiu. Isn't it different from before?" Xie Shirsi said with a smile. "Here, you have to take whatever you want to eat and pour whatever you want to drink. We also have some games to play." Perhaps it was because they had never seen a banquet like this before, but the young girls and youths were very happy. They moved through the garden and chatted. Here, the men and women were not separated. They were all gathered together, so it was much livelier. No matter if it was youths or young girls, because they were more confident in front of the opposite sex, they tried their best to show their most elegant and proper side. Because the Ruan sisters had good looks and the Ruan family was a large family, they were surrounded when they came. Even Xie Shirsi was pushed to the side. When Fengjiu came over, he saw the youths in the garden surrounding the 2 young girls. Their words were full of flattery. Of the 2 young girls, one was Ruan San, and the other, her eyes flashed slightly. The other was Ruan Si, Ruan Yunru. He hadn't seen her for a few days, but she had changed a lot. She was surrounded in the middle and chatted with others. She was like a fish in water. He didn't go over and only walked to a place with fruit. He took a fruit and leaned on the side to eat while watching. Ruan Yunru, who was chatting with others, found him and walked over in pleasant surprise. "So you were here. I was looking for you." She went forward and saw the youth in front of her was still wearing ordinary green clothes. She thought of the news she had heard and her heart couldn't help but tremble. It seemed that he was the chief steward of the Xie Manor? Such a young chief steward, and he knew how to treat her face. He also knew about her body. Big brother Xiao Jiu, my face is better. Thank you. She smiled and squinted her eyes to express her thanks. What big brother Xiao Jiu? How can a servant be worthy of you calling him brother? Don't break the rules for no reason. Ruan San walked over and lightly snorted as he swept a glance at Fengjiu. Since you're here, then have fun. As Fengjiu spoke, he turned around and walked out, not bothering to argue with Ruan San. Third elder sister, I'll be right back. Ruan Ruyun said and caught up with Fengjiu. Fengjiu went to the kitchen and had someone deliver a few dishes and wine before returning to the courtyard. Ruan Si followed and looked around. When she came to the courtyard, she looked around and asked in surprise, Brother Xiaoju lives here? This was clearly not a servant's courtyard. Why are you following me? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Yes. She nodded and looked at him to say, Brother Xiaojiu, I heard that you are the chief steward here? Our Wan family's clan head said that you are a capable person. It's too much of an injustice for you to be a chief steward in a branch of the Xie family. If you want, you can come to our Wan family. The clan head said that you can be a guest of our Wan family. The treatment will definitely be better than here. Chapter 2709. Ruan Ruyun looked at him. She did not know what he meant. Did he agree? Or not? Thus, she lowered her eyes and played with the corner of her beautiful dress. Brother Little Jiu, I was brought out from the bamboo courtyard. The people in the clan are very good to me now. The clan leader even said that the resources given to me must be the best. Now, the courtyard that I live in often has people coming to see me, talk to me, and even give me gift. I know. If it wasn't for Brother Xiaojiu, I would still be in the bamboo forest right now. As she spoke, she seemed to remember something. She looked up at Fengjiu and said, Brother Xiaojiu, my master was killed by the old ancestor. Just 2 nights ago, the old ancestor and the clan leader used some unknown method to kill my master. As she spoke, she lowered her head again. No one outside knows about this, and no one leaked any information. My master, such a powerful person, died. Fengjiu listened quietly and calmly looked at the young girl in front of him. When she spoke of this matter, her expression would suddenly darken, then sigh in relief, then become melancholy. Brother Xiaojiu. She had just spoken when Fengjiu interrupted her. We've only met once, so we can't be considered familiar. You're the 4th young miss of the Ruan family, so don't call me brother. As Fengjiu spoke, he saw a servant girl bring in wine and food from outside the courtyard. He indicated for the servant girl to put down the wine and food and retreat. She poured the wine and took a sip. She did not look at Ruan Ruyun and only said, This is the inner courtyard. You can go back. Hearing this, Ruan Ruyun looked at Fengjiu and said, You're not willing to go to the Ruan family as a guest? Not interested. Fengjiu said as he gently swirled the wine cup in his hand. But this is the first task the clan leader gave me. If I don't do it well, the clan leader will be disappointed. She bit her lower lip and looked at him with a troubled expression. What does that have to do with me? Fengjiu looked at her and asked carelessly. Of course it's your business. It's because of you that I came out of the bamboo forest. Originally, they all ignored me and didn't like me, but now they all like me and treat me very well. This is all because of you. She looked at Fengjiu and said, I don't want to disappoint them. I want them to always like me like this. Hearing this, Fengjiu, who was eating with her chopsticks, paused. She looked at the girl in front of her seriously. She was wearing a beautiful dress made of fine gauze, with tassels hanging around her waist. She was wearing a bracelet on her wrist. It was not an ordinary bracelet, but a spatial bracelet. Further up, there was an exquisite pearl necklace around her neck. The earrings dangling from her earlobes flickered with a mesmerizing light. The veil that covered the girl's face due to her ugliness had long been removed, revealing a jade-like delicate and beautiful face. Her facial features were outstanding, and her eyes were innocent and natural. The inferiority between her brows had disappeared. What replaced it was an arrogance that could not be concealed, as well as a sense of superiority that made people dislike her. It had to be said that this girl was the same as the majority of the daughters of influential families. She had a high and mighty attitude. Compared to her inferiority self, she was now more dazzling and looked more like a daughter of an influential family. However, the girl in front of her did not have the kind of thoughts that made her want to help her. She only felt displeasure. Chapter 27:10. It's not that I've changed. It's just that my identity and status are different now. I like this version of me. Everyone in the clan likes this version of me. Ruan Ryun looked at Fengjiu as she spoke. You'll help me, right? You've already helped me before. You can help me again. Fengjiu shook his head. I can't help you, and I don't want to help you. You should leave. She didn't look at her anymore. Instead, she poured wine and drank. She planned to give the beautiful woman a birthday gift after the banquet ended. Then, she prepared to leave. She suddenly took a step forward. No, you can help me. You just have to come with me to the Ruan family. Instead of being a steward of the Xie family, wouldn't it be better to come to our Ruan family? Feng Nine focused on eating and didn't pay any attention to her. The silver wolf lying in the corner of the courtyard watched this scene. A trace of viciousness flashed across its eyes. This human had guts. She actually dared to speak to its master like this. If you don't leave, I'll get someone to ask you to leave. At that time, I'm afraid it won't look good for you. Fengjiu said indifferently. He shook his head inwardly. People were fickle and insatiable. Hearing this, Ruan Ryun's expression changed. She was a little agitated and her eyes became angry. She shouted at Fengjiu in a shrill voice. Why won't you help me? You can clearly help me. You should help me. That sudden shrill voice was filled with agitation and anger. Fengjiu was stunned and looked at her in astonishment. It was fine if this person was fickle, but how did her mentality become so twisted and perverted? In just a few days, she could change someone like this? Or could it be that suppressing her inferiority complex in the past was only one side of her, and this was her true personality? Now that she had the protection of her family, and some of the clan leaders treated her differently, the other side of her was gradually being exposed? However, what made her even more dumbfounded was that she stared at her with an inexplicable smile. Suddenly, she reached out and tore her own clothes. The sound of clothes being torn was heard. The high-quality fabric was torn apart just like that. A good new dress was ruined because of this. Ruan Ryun looked at Feng Nine, who was looking at her in astonishment with an inexplicable expression. She chuckled softly. Even if he is the chief steward, he is just a servant. What do you think will happen if he sees you tearing my clothes and trying to do something to me? As she spoke, she loosened her shirt and tore off one of her sleeves, revealing her snow-white skin. She also messed up her coiled hair a little. She looked her up and down and finally smiled with satisfaction. Last time at home, I saw my third sister frame someone she didn't like. That person wasn't willing to listen to her. In the end, both of her legs were broken and she was thrown out of the city. She said innocently while looking at Fengjiu. You're so smart, but you're not willing to be used by me or enter my Ruan family. Then I can only think of a way. I think, when I call for help later, the people in front will definitely run over. You bullied me and took advantage of me. My family won't let you off easily. Brother Xiaojiu, don't you think so? Chapter 27:11. What was going on in that brain of hers? She actually thought of using such a despicable scheme to frame her? Looking at her tearing her clothes and making it look like she was being bullied and taken advantage of, she really wanted to tell her that she didn't need to tear. She was a woman, and even if she took off her clothes and put the two of them together, she wouldn't be able to take advantage of her. However, seeing her having so much fun, she felt that it was fine. Let's see how she tormented herself. In any case, in the end, she would definitely torment herself to death. The silver wolf that was lying on the side had already sat up, but it was as small as a puppy and had no presence at all. Ruan Ruyun didn't take it seriously and naturally didn't see that the silver wolf was sharpening its knife, looking as if it couldn't wait to pounce on her and bite her to death. Seeing that Fengjiu didn't take her seriously, Ruan Ruyun gritted her teeth. You really don't agree? You have to know that as long as I call for help, even if the Xie couple wants to protect you, they won't be able to. At that time, you'll fall into the hands of our Ruan family. Fengjiu continued eating and ignored her. Seeing this, she took a few steps back, and a trace of determination flashed across her eyes. In the next moment she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Help! Help!" After all, she was a golden core cultivator, so her voice naturally contained spiritual aura and easily spread out. Even the people in the garden could clearly hear the echo of her voice. The people in front were all in harmony, especially because Old Master Guo and Guoxining happened to be visiting today, and Xie Yan was receiving them. However, who knew that they would suddenly hear a cry for help? Xie Yan was stunned for a moment and ordered the housekeeper beside him, "Go and see what's going on." In the garden, the beautiful woman and the others were also stunned for a moment when they heard the sound. Someone asked curiously, "Why is there a cry for help?" "It's my fourth sister's voice." Ruan San was stunned for a moment before he exclaimed and ran towards the direction of the sound. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other in astonishment and quickly ran towards the direction of the cry for help. Xie Shirsi was running with the crowd and almost fell when someone suddenly bumped into her. At this time, a pair of hands reached out to support her. "Be careful." A gentle voice came. She looked up and couldn't help but be happy. "Brother Guo." "Thank you, Brother Guo." She had just heard that they were coming, and she hadn't had time to see him. "Are you all right?" Guoxining asked gently. "I'm fine," Xie Shirsi said with a smile. "Why didn't I see Fengjiu?" he asked. "Ah. Little Jiu is with the Ruan's fourth young Mississippi. That cry for help belongs to the Ruan's fourth young Mississippi. I don't know what happened. Let's quickly go take a look." As she spoke, she didn't even think before pulling him to the rear courtyard. Guoxining was slightly stunned after hearing her words. Feng Nine and Miss Ruan were in the backyard? When Shai Yutong, who was also going to the backyard, heard the cry for help, he couldn't help but curse in a low voice. I knew that the people of the Ruan family wouldn't be good. However, when everyone came to the backyard and saw the scene in the backyard, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded and couldn't recover for a long time. Chapter 27:12. When Miss Ruan saw this situation, she couldn't help but gasp. She quickly ran forward to help her up. "Little Four, what's wrong with you?" However, before she could touch her, she screamed and exclaimed, "Brother Xiaojiu, don't." As soon as these words came out, the faces of the people around suddenly changed, and their eyes fell on the young man in cyan who was eating and drinking indifferently. They knew this young man. His name was Fengjiu, and he was the housekeeper of the house. This man and woman were alone in this courtyard, and Miss Ruan looked like she was being bullied, which made people's imagination run wild. Could it be that this young man in cyan took advantage of Miss Ruan? Thinking about it, it was possible. After all, he was a young man. It was normal if something happened that he couldn't control. However, this girl was not an ordinary person. She was the Ruan family's Miss Ruan. Recently, she was in the limelight. If something happened to her, the Ruan family would not let it go. For a moment, the surrounding people discussed in low voices. When Xie Shirsi, who had squeezed her way forward from the back, heard this, she rushed forward and heavily pushed the Ruan fourth young miss. She angrily scolded, "What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Jiu is not that kind of person. If you talk nonsense again, I'll slap your mouth." "Little sure." Shai Yutong stepped forward and pulled her, indicating that she should not be impulsive. With a gloomy face, he stared at Miss Ruan with a stern look. He said word by word, "You can eat whatever you want, but don't talk nonsense. Xiao Jiu is not someone you can slander." Guoxining, who was standing at the back of the crowd, looked at this scene with slight surprise. He looked at the crying girl and saw that her clothes were torn and she was in a sorry state. Moreover, there was a look of panic on her face. From time to time, she looked at Feng Jiu as if she wanted to say something but stopped herself. Feng Jiu would take advantage of her? To be honest, he didn't believe it. "What's the matter?" The beautiful woman's voice came from behind. Everyone turned around and saw that she had arrived with a few other women, so they all opened up a path for her. "Mother, that Ruan Si is slandering Xiao Jiu for bullying him." Xie Shirsi quickly ran to her side and said angrily. At this moment, she saw that everyone was crowding around the courtyard, and many pairs of eyes were looking at her from time to time. She put down her chopsticks and called for a maidservant to take the dishes away, leaving only the wine. Then, she looked at the beautiful woman. "I was drinking here, and this fourth Miss Ruan was tearing her clothes and screaming for help." The corners of Feng Jiu's lips curled up, and he explained the situation in a few words. "Nonsense. My fourth sister is a girl, how could she do such a thing to slander you? Clearly, you were the one who wanted to do something to her," Ruan San said angrily. She stared at Feng Jiu with her beautiful eyes and said, "You even dare to touch my Ruan family's people. Today, I will dig out your eyes and let you have eyes but fail to recognize people." Hearing this, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows, and a trace of coldness flashed in his deep eyes. He glanced at Ruan Si with a faint smile and said, "Fourth Miss Ruan, don't cry. Tell me, what did I do to you?" Chapter 27:13. Fourth Miss Ruan, we're not very familiar with each other. I don't dare to assume that you're calling me brother," Feng Jiu said casually. Looking at her slightly changed expression, he smiled and asked, "I'm curious. How did I scare you?" Seeing that she kept retreating with her head lowered and did not look back, Feng Jiu patted his forehead in realization. "Oh right. You should be stalling for time now. I think that the person secretly protecting you should have already gone back to report, right? It won't be long before the Ruan family comes knocking." Hearing this, the surrounding people's expressions were indescribable. No one knew what they were thinking. When the beautiful woman saw this, she arranged for everyone to leave first. Clearly, she did not wish for the matter to become too big and ugly. After all, it was the Xie family. The host had already apologized and asked them to leave first, so everyone left first. However, they did not go far. Instead, after exiting the Xie family's main door, they found a place not far from here to sit idly. They felt that today's matter would not be settled so easily. After all, the Ruan family would not let it go so easily. Indeed, not long after, the Ruan family came knocking. However, before they could enter the Xie family's main door, over 10 people walked out. "Father!" Ruan San saw that the person who came was her father, and could not help but call out happily. Ruan Si, who had been weeping softly with her head lowered, heard the voice and looked up. She could not help but quickly walk forward. "Father!" She sobbed softly and threw herself into her father's arms. "All right, it's fine now. Go to the side. Father will seek justice for you," the Ruan family head said in a deep voice. His sharp gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Feng Jiu to size him up. Then, he looked at the beautiful woman who walked out from behind. "How does Madame Xie plan to give us an explanation?" He did not ask Feng Jiu but directly asked the mistress of the Xie family. "Ruan family head, there must be a misunderstanding. Xiao Jiu is not that kind of person," the beautiful woman said gently and walked to Feng Jiu's side. "Misunderstanding?" He snorted heavily. "Could it be that my daughter is slandering you? He's just a servant. My daughter's body is priceless. Would she do something that would ruin her reputation for the sake of slandering a servant? Xie Yan, who was originally entertaining the old master of the Ruan family, heard that someone from the Ruan family had come and also came out. The Xie family head who heard the news also came over. Seeing this scene, the Xie family head was slightly startled and asked, "What's going on? Since the Ruan family head, why don't you come in and have a cup of tea? Your Xie family's tea isn't that good. How do you think this matter? How do you think this matter? How do you think a servant should this matter? How? 2. Standing. Him. T. At this moment, Xie Yan walked out from behind and said, "Family head, he's not a servant of our family. He's our guest." Hearing this, the Xie family head glanced at him and then looked at Fengjiu. "This happened because of you. Don't you think you should say something?" Chapter 27:14. She stood up and looked at the Ruan clan head. How does the Ruan clan head intend to deal with this? The Ruan clan head looked at the youth in front of him and recalled what his fourth daughter had told him. It was because of this youth that they realized that their neglected and forgotten daughter had such a physique, and that her strength and talent were higher than those of her age in the clan. This youth saw through things that even they couldn't see through. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and calmed his churning emotions. He looked at Fengjiu and said, "You offended my daughter. First, I'll gouge out your eyes and chop off your hands. Second, from today onwards, you'll become a slave of the Ruan clan." When these words were spoken, although the surrounding people were shocked, they felt that it was reasonable. For a mere foundational cultivator without a silhouette to offend a powerhouse's family, it was normal for him to be killed. After all, the power of a powerhouse was not to be offended. Not to mention gouging out his eyes and chopping off his hands, even if he was chopped into pieces, nobody would say anything. After all, a weakling was already a weakling. No one would stand up for a weakling. Compared to having his eyes gouged out and hands chopped off, becoming a slave would save his life. However, he would have to be a slave for the rest of his life and be beaten and scolded by them. Old Master Gua, who was standing behind the Xie clan, was stunned when he heard the Ruan clan head's words. Then, he shook his head and laughed. Beside him, Guaxining saw this and asked in a low voice, "Grandfather, what do you think they mean by this?" "I don't know what they mean, but I know that the Ruan clan is out of luck." Old Master Gua also replied in a low voice. Of all the people the Ruan clan could have offended? Why did they have to offend that pervert? Did they really think that ordinary and honest-looking youth in green was a pushover that could be trampled on? They really didn't know why the Ruan clan wanted to offend him. Hearing this, the Xie clan couple looked at each other. Slave? Others didn't know, but they did. Their son had told them how he met the fourth miss of the Ruan clan. From what happened today, the Ruan clan probably had their eyes on Fengjiu. However, they had no idea what kind of person Fengjiu was. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done such a thing so suddenly. Although they didn't know Fengjiu very well, they knew that the Ruan family didn't have good intentions towards him. They guessed that he wouldn't be merciful to the Ruan family. He was someone who could make a divine beast submit to him, and someone who could make old Master Xie visit him personally. They didn't think that the Ruan family could withstand his anger. Fourth young Mistress Ruan, who was hiding beside the third young Mistress Ruan, listened to her father's words. Her lowered eyelashes trembled slightly, and her body shrunk imperceptibly. She did not dare to raise her head and only kept it lowered. Hee, a soft laugh broke the strange atmosphere. Fengjiu smiled, but there was no smile in her clear eyes. There was only playfulness and coldness. Offend? Speaking of which, how could I forget the word offend? The consequences of offending a strong person isn't something that ordinary people can bear. It's good that you know, Old Master Ruan said. He stood with his hands behind his back and stared at Fengjiu. So, do you want to have your eyes gouged out and your hands chopped off? Or become a slave? Chapter 27:15. Seeing that Ruan family head narrowed his eyes and did not speak, Fengjiu chuckled. Suddenly, he flicked his finger and a stream of air hit Ruan Si. She cried out in pain. Following her cry, she opened her mouth slightly and a pill was flicked into her mouth by Fengjiu. What did you give her to eat? Ruan family head glared angrily at Fengjiu. He could not believe that this youth was so daring. He dared to do such a thing here in front of them. Cough, cough. Ruan Si coughed and bent over, trying to spit out the pill she had swallowed. Don't worry, it's not poison. Fengjiu smiled and ignored Ruan family head who was glaring at him. Instead, he looked at Ruan Si and asked, "Fourth Miss Ruan, did I bully you? Take advantage of you?" Hearing Fengjiu's sudden question, the surrounding people were slightly surprised and looked at the two of them. However, what made everyone stunned was Fourth Miss Ruan's reply. No. No? If not, why did she say that he tore her clothes and took advantage of her? Some of the youths who were originally at the Xie family's banquet widened their eyes. Fourth Miss Ruan, who heard her own reply, cried out in surprise. Just as she was about to cover her mouth, a chi blade shot out and sealed her pressure point, making her unable to move. Ruan family head stared at Fourth Miss Ruan and then stared at Fengjiu, asking, "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything. I only gave her a truth pill to make her speak the truth." Fengjiu curled the corners of his lips and spoke unhurriedly. Then, in the midst of the crowd's uproar, he asked, "Fourth Miss Ruan, who tore your clothes? Did anyone bully you or take advantage of you?" "I tore it myself. I tore it myself on purpose. No one bullied me. No one took advantage of me." When Ruan Si heard what she had said, her face turned pale and her body trembled. She wanted to stop it, but she could not. It was as if her body was under her control. She could not help but say the words in her heart. Ruan Si's face turned pale and her body trembled. "No, no, it's not like that. I didn't say that. I only wanted him to join our Ruan clan as a guest, but he wasn't willing. That's why I wanted to force him. No, it's not like that. I. The more she spoke, the more flustered she became. The crowd went into an uproar. They didn't expect it to be like this. So it turned out that she had written and directed the scene herself. She had slandered Fengjiu just because he had rejected her invitation to the Ruan family as a guest? Thinking back to when the Ruan family head said that he wanted Fengjiu to have fewer slaves in the Ruan family, everyone's hearts were slightly moved. An ordinary young man would not make them put in so much effort. Could it be that there was something unusual about this young man? For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on the young man again. He casually took out a truth pill. They had never heard of this pill here. However, the effect was obviously very good. As soon as she ate the pill, Fourth Miss Ruan herself spoke the truth. For some large families, such a pill was really good. Humph. You're really shameless. Xiao Jiu is such a good person. He even helped you and cured your hidden disease. You actually harmed him with such bad intentions. Xie Shirsi ran forward angrily. If Shai Yutong hadn't held her back, she would have rushed over and hit her. Chapter 27:16. That's right. He cured her unmentionable illness. How can she frame him like this? I heard that she had been quarantined before and was only recently brought out. Even so, she can't frame her benefactor like this. I really couldn't tell. How can such a pretty girl have such bad intentions? The voices of the surrounding people continued to speak, and the Ruan family members only felt embarrassed. Fengjiu's sealing of her acupuncture points did not last long. Ruan Si's legs went soft and she fell to the ground. Her pale face was filled with panic and fear as she looked at the Ruan family's old master, who had arrived at some point in time and was quietly watching from the side. Men, send 3rd Miss and 4th Miss home first, the Ruan family head ordered in a deep voice. His gaze was gloomy as he looked at Fengjiu. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and looked to the side. Seeing that his father had also arrived, he could not help but be startled. "Father? Why have you come?" Everyone looked at the Ruan family's old master and saw him walk out with his hands behind his back. His eyes swept over Ruan Si, who had fallen to the ground, and he frowned. He said to the men of the Ruan family, "What are you standing there for? Haven't you embarrassed yourselves enough? Bring her back." The originally pale Ruan Si was terrified by the old master's words. She fiercely waved her hand and pushed away those who wanted to help her. She looked at her eldest brother, who had followed the old master, and had a complicated expression. She cried and begged, eldest brother, save me! Save me! Help me, plead! I won't go back! I can't go back!" The Ruan family's eldest young master looked at her with a complicated expression and said, "4th sister, go back with them first. It's fine." He did not know why his obedient and kind 4th sister had become like this in just a few days. Could it be that she had gone from being neglected to being treasured? Was that why she had become so unfamiliar? However, when Ruan Si heard his words, she shook her head in fear. "No, no. Eldest brother, I can't go back. I didn't do a good job and embarrassed the family. They won't let me go. Men, drag her back. What nonsense are you spouting?" The Ruan family's old master's expression was gloomy and ugly. He ordered people to drag her away. "No, no. I don't want to," she cried helplessly and helplessly. She looked at her family members, her grandfather, her father, her brother, and her sister. They were all looking at her with disgust and disgust. No one could save her. No one could save her. Suddenly, she stopped crying and crawled towards Fengjiu. "Brother Xiaojiu, I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to frame you, but I had no choice, Brother Xiaojiu, save me! Grandfather wants to use me as a cultivation vessel for the family's elite disciples to cultivate. They want to lock me up. I'm scared. I'm scared of Brother Xiaojiu." Hearing this, Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, creating ripples. Her brows furrowed and her eyes grew colder. Because of the truth pill, she knew that what Ruan Si was saying was the truth. A cultivation vessel? Because of her natural cultivation vessel constitution, her family wanted to lock her up and use her as a cultivation vessel? Until the last drop of essence blood was squeezed from her body? Chapter 27:17. What nonsense are you spouting? Old Master Ruan's face was gloomy, and his gaze was as sharp as a knife as he stared at Ruan Si. His deep voice was old but full of energy. A powerful coercion accompanied the voice and attacked Ruan Si. It seemed that he intended to use the coercion's powerful force to injure her so that she could no longer speak nonsense. However, Fengjiu only glanced indifferently at old Master Ruan. She reached out and gently waved her hand, easily dispersing the pressure that attacked her. Her clear eyes were filled with mockery as she looked at old Master Ruan. Her clear voice was cold as she said, "What? Are you angry out of humiliation? Or do you want to silence me?" When old Master Ruan saw that the pressure was dispelled by the youth, his old face sank. His eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. "Boy, it's best if you don't meddle in other people's business. This is our Ruan family's business." His voice paused. His sharp gaze stared at his granddaughter, who was hugging the youth's leg and hiding beside him. A cold light flashed through his eyes. "As a disciple of the Ruan family, you should be killed for ruining the family's reputation." When old Master Ruan heard Ruan Si's words, his eyes flashed and his expression was stunned. It was as if he did not expect her to know about this matter. Actually, his father had told him about this matter. Ruanxi was a woman and had that kind of constitution. If she was used as a cultivation vessel for the elite disciples of the family to cultivate, then their Ruan family would be like the sun in the sky. From his point of view, his daughter was only used for marriage alliances. In the future, she would be married into another family. The greatest use of a daughter was to become in-laws with a large family. Even the 3 women who grew up by his side could only be reduced to tools for marriage alliances in the future, not to mention the 4th daughter who had been raised in the bamboo forest all this time and had little contact with her. Thus, when his father mentioned this matter, they had already made a decision after analyzing the benefits and benefit. However, he did not expect her to know of their plan and say it in front of so many people. For a moment, seeing the disbelieving gazes of his son and daughter, he felt somewhat angry. As a woman with that kind of constitution, being able to contribute to the family was already enough to display her greatest value. Sacrificing her in exchange for their Ruan family having as many strong people as trees in the forest, what was wrong with that? Men, bring forth young Miss back, he said in a gloomy voice, making up his mind. Father, is 4th young Miss speaking the truth? Young Master Ruan was extremely shocked. Even his voice was trembling. He could never have imagined that things would turn out like this. He thought that it was the family's attention and flattery that caused 4th sister to change, but he didn't expect that the person who forced 4th sister to be like this was their father, their grandfather. Don't listen to her nonsense. I think she's delirious, the Ruan family head said in a deep voice without any change in his expression. When the crowd heard this, they were all shocked. They looked at the people from the Ruan clan in disbelief. Someone said, "That young man just gave the Ruan 4th Miss a truth pill. She shouldn't be lying." Chapter 27:18. Then it's not strange. That kind of constitution is hard to come by in 100 years. Anyone would go crazy for it. Hearing the discussions of the surrounding people, the faces of the Ruan clan's patriarch and patriarch became increasingly ugly. Seeing that the Ruan clan guards were still standing there in a daze, they couldn't help but angrily shout, "What are you still standing there for? Didn't you hear that I told you to bring her back?" The Ruan clan members came back to their senses and quickly went forward. When the surrounding people saw this, they didn't say anything. After all, this was their clan's matter. It wasn't up to outsiders like them to interfere. Even if the Ruan clan's 4th young miss was really locked up and turned into a cultivation vessel, it had nothing to do with them. No, I don't want to go back, don't." Ruanxi muttered in despair. His tears blurred his vision. He was desperate and helpless. At this moment, when Xie Yan and his wife thought that Fengzhou wouldn't save the Ruan clan's 4th young miss, they saw Fengzhou's clear eyes sweep over and coldly shout, "Stop!" Perhaps it was that cold shout that caused those people to involuntarily stop in their track. They didn't continue forward. The Ruan clan's patriarch stared at Fengzhou and asked in a deep voice, "What? Do you still want to interfere with our Ruan clan's matters?" The corner of Fengzhou's lips curled up slightly. Looking at the Ruan clan's patriarch, he said, "Ruan clan's patriarch, people of noble status often forget things. Could it be that you've forgotten that she just slandered me and you want to take her away just like that? You're thinking too simply. A mere foundation establishment cultivator. Even if I kill you, it's not too much. She only slandered you. What can you do about it?" The Ruan clan's patriarch coldly snorted, not putting Fengzhou in his eyes. "Is that so?" She chuckled and stared at the Ruan clan's patriarch. Suddenly, she called out, "Silver, move your muscles." Just as everyone was startled by her words, they heard a wolf's howl. A woof! A deafening wolf's howl suddenly rang out. That sound soared into the sky, powerful and full of energy reverberating in the sky. When the people below heard the wolf's howl, they all cried out in alarm. They covered their ears with their hands and squatted down, looking around in horror. But when everyone saw the silver-white puppy, which was sitting not far behind Fengjiu, suddenly stand up and reveal its true form with a flash of light, they were all scared out of their wits. Heavens! It's a wolf! It's a wolf, king wolf! Hiss! It's a divine beast level. When they saw the originally unremarkable puppy suddenly turn into a meter-tall silver wolf, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. They watched in disbelief as it revealed a ferocious expression and pounced towards the patriarch of the Ruan clan. The Ruan clan's patriarch was still wondering what the silver Fengjiu spoke of was when he saw the wolf pounce over. In an instant, he felt his entire body being covered by a huge thing. The pressure of a divine beast and its bloodthirsty aura made him forget to dodge. He could only watch in horror as the silver wolf bit down. "Get out of the way!" the Ruan clan's patriarch shouted. Before the silver wolf could bite the Ruan clan's patriarch, he reached out and pulled him back quickly, avoiding the silver wolf's attack. The sudden attack shocked the Ruan clan, especially Ruan Si. He stared blankly, forgetting to cry. She never thought that Fengjiu would be willing to help her. In an instant, hope rose in her heart. Chapter 27:19. Fengjiu raised her hand and gestured for the silver wolf to step aside. She walked forward and looked at them. Her clear voice was cold as she said, "Someone who can cripple all of you." As soon as she finished speaking, a powerful pressure burst out from her body. The aura of an immortal emperor was fully displayed. Just as the father and son of the Ruan clan were shocked by her strength, a green figure flashed in front of them and the Ruan clan head screamed. Ah! That blood-curdling scream pierced through the sky, causing everyone's heart to involuntarily shrink. Their hearts tightened. That green-robed youth's speed was too fast. They didn't even see how he did it. They only knew that when that blood-curdling scream rang out, he was standing beside the Ruan family head, and one of the Ruan family head's hands was twisted behind his back. What shocked them the most was that with just a glance, the Ruan family head's cultivation was actually crippled. The aura of spirit force leaked out from his body. His spirit force was flowing out, and his meridians were destroyed. It made him look as if he had aged 10 years. He tried to struggle, but he couldn't resist. When all of his spirit force was exhausted, he collapsed to the ground. Patriarch Guo and Guoxining, who were standing among the Xie clan, were shocked when they saw this. This scene was too sudden, but it also seemed so natural. They even thought about the situation in their clan. If Patriarch Li hadn't arrived, even if he didn't kill the Li clan head, he would have been crippled. They knew that Fengjiu was very strong, but they didn't expect him to be a peak immortal emperor. After offending such a figure and provoking him with such words, it was not surprising that the Ruan family head ended up with his meridians broken and his cultivation crippled. However, they were still unable to calm down after witnessing this scene. Witnessing the family head of a large family being beaten down from a high and mighty expert to a mere mortal, and witnessing a powerhouse being turned into a cripple in an instant. This was Fengjiu's method. This was Fengjiu's strength. It was terrifying and awe-inspiring. The eldest son of the Ruan clan, Ruan San and Ruan Si, were stunned. Their father was crippled just like that? This was clearly impossible, but it happened right in front of them. Even if they didn't dare to believe it, they had no choice but to believe it was real. Compared to them, the Xie clan head was the most dumbfounded. As the Xie clan head, he didn't usually notice Fengjiu when Xie Yan was there. How could such an inconspicuous young man be a peak immortal emperor? Thinking about how such an inconspicuous young man was stronger than him, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. Fortunately, the one who offended him wasn't him, but the Ruan clan. How dare you? The old master of the Ruan family was so angry that his whole body trembled. Seeing his son, the head of the Ruan family, become a cripple like this, the anger in his body burned. The spiritual chi in his body also exploded, forming a powerful airflow that could be seen with the naked eye. Chapter 27:20. When two experts fought, one move was all it took to determine the victor. One was the old master of the Ruan clan, and the other was a young man in green. When the two of them exchanged blows, the airflow in the surrounding air also condensed, and a powerful pressure pressed down, causing those who retreated to feel a sense of suffocation. Too impulsive. Old Master Guo, who was watching from the side, shook his head and sighed softly. "Grandfather, are you referring to Fengjiu? Or the old master of the Ruan clan?" Guo Xining asked. "Haha, Fengjiu is at the peak of the immortal emperor realm. With his strength, he can definitely kill his opponent instantly. If I'm talking about impulsive, I'm naturally referring to the old master of the Ruan clan." As old Master Guo spoke, he stroked his beard and said, "His son was instantly crippled. This shows how strong Fengjiu is. His movements are extremely fast and impossible to guard against. He has already lost one person, and this person is the patriarch of the Ruan clan. If he calmed down, he should know that he can't fight Fengjiu, but he still attacked." Old Master Guo watched as the air currents from the two collided. With a loud bang, the old master of the Ruan clan was sent flying by Fengjiu's powerful air current. Along with his own air current, he flew dozens of meters and fell heavily to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. "Old Master! Grandfather!" The Ruan clan members cried out in alarm and quickly ran forward to help him up. They looked at the approaching young man in green in fear, afraid that he would attack again. The two strongest people in the Ruan clan, one was crippled and the other was severely injured. This young man, was he going to destroy the Ruan clan? The surroundings were silent. Everyone held their breaths and stared at the young man in green in shock. This young man was too strong, wasn't he? The two strongest men of the Ruan clan had been so easily defeated by him? The Ruan clan was in trouble this time. Even if the young man in green didn't kill the two of them, the Ruan clan would probably be reduced from a large clan to a small one. After all, the strength of a clan depended on the strong people in the clan. Now that the two strongest people in the Ruan clan were in such a state, they naturally couldn't compete with the other clans. The Ruan family was destined to go downhill. Fengjiu looked at the pale-faced old Master Ruan, who was being helped up by several Ruan family members. Her clear and cold voice came out of her mouth unhurriedly. "Strength decides everything. Even if I kill you here today, no one will dare to say anything. Am I right?" Old Master Ruan's lips moved slightly. He stared at Fengjiu, his heart in his throat. Fengjiu slowly walked forward step by step until he was in front of him. He looked down at him condescendingly. "You tell me, am I going to kill you? Or cripple you?" Hearing this, Patriarch Ruan's heart trembled, but he wasn't willing to beg for mercy. Instead, he gritted his teeth and said, "Winner takes all. If you want to kill me, do as you please." Hearing this, Fengjiu's lips curled up. "Old man, you're vicious and sinister. Today, I've crippled your Ruan clan's patriarch. Naturally, I can't keep you alive." When Fengjiu said this, eldest young Master Ruan couldn't help but beg, "I beg you to let my grandfather go. My father's cultivation has already been crippled by you. If even my grandfather is crippled, then our Ruan clan. What does your Ruan clan have to do with me?" Fengjiu sneered. He gathered a wisp of spiritual energy in his palm and prepared to attack. Chapter 27:21. Yes, die. This old man will drag you down with me. Old Master Ruan fiercely charged forward. His spiritual energy surged as if he wanted to perish together with Fengjiu. However, just as he leapt towards Fengjiu's hand was already clasped around his hand. Her other hand covered his head, dispersing his cultivation and crippling his meridians. After all, he was an old man. When he had his strength, he seemed to be full of energy. However, when his spiritual energy was crippled, his entire person aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. His face that was 50 or 60 years old became 70 or 80 years old. His waist bent and his body became thinner. His legs trembled. Only when Fengjiu withdrew her hand did he tremble and fall to the ground. When the Ruan family saw this scene, they didn't know what to say. They stared blankly, shocked and in disbelief. Compared to killing you, I think crippling your cultivation will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Fengjiu's voice faintly sounded. She looked at the two people on the ground and slightly curled her lip. She slowly turned and walked towards the beautiful woman. Madam, I have to go. Thank you for taking care of me during this time. She spoke slowly and took out a box from her space. She handed it to the beautiful woman. This is a beauty pill that I refined. It's for Madam's birthday. As long as you take this pill, it will ensure that Madam's youthful appearance will never change. Hearing this, the beautiful woman was surprised and happy. She walked forward and reached out to take it. She opened it and carefully put it away. Thank you. Fengjiu glanced at the Xie siblings, who were reluctant to part with them. She smiled and took out another bottle. This bottle is for the two of them. Madam, please keep it for me. When the beautiful woman heard this, she looked at Fengjiu and nodded. Okay. She looked at her children and signaled for them to come forward and thank her. Xiaojiu. Xie Shirsi was a little sad. After spending so much time together, she couldn't bear for him to leave. I thought I would become very strong, Xia Yutong said, looking at Fengjiu and saying seriously, I will definitely become very strong. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded and patted their shoulders. Work hard in your cultivation and take care of yourselves. As soon as she finished speaking, she took the feather from her waist and threw it out. As the feather grew bigger, she looked at the silver wolf. The silver wolf seemed to have sensed something. It shrunk from its huge size to the size of a puppy and jumped into her arms. Following the tip of her foot, she leaped onto the feather. Ruanxi looked at her with pleading eyes. If he didn't take her with him, then it would be difficult for her to escape death. Come up. Fengjiu looked at her and called out. Yes, big brother Xiaojiu. Ruanxi responded happily. She broke away from her third sister's hand and quickly ran to Fengjiu. She jumped onto the flying magic tool, but she didn't dare to sit down. She just stood quietly beside Fengjiu. Everyone, goodbye. She looked at the people of the Xie family and the two people of the Guo family below. Only then did she leave with the man and beast. Seeing them gradually disappear into the sky, everyone stared blankly. It took a long time for them to recover. They couldn't believe that things would end like this. Chapter 27-22. On the other side, Fengjiu brought Ruanxi to a deserted path and stopped. She said to Ruanxi, Let's go down. Ruanxi was startled and could not help but panic. Brother Xiaojiu, bringing you out of that place is also saving your life. If I didn't give you a few pointers back then, perhaps you wouldn't be in such trouble today. I saved you today because I sympathized with you. However, I won't keep people I don't like by my side. Bringing you here is already the most benevolent thing I can do. She sat on the flying feather and said indifferently. She raised her hand and sent Ruanxi to the ground. She looked at the panicked Ruanxi and said, After experiencing all these things, I think your temperament has changed. I think that even if you are alone, you can still live well after leaving those people. Brother Xiaojiu, I have never left home, much less traveled far. Now that I have no relatives, where can I go? She could not help but panic. She did not know where else she could go. Fengjiu took out some wine and took a sip. She looked at her leisurely and said, Going to a sect to become a disciple may be your best way out. As she said this, she took another sip of wine. Brother Xiaojiu, why don't you let me follow you? I am willing to be your human cauldron alone. Cough, cough. Fengjiu was caught off guard and choked on her wine. She coughed lightly and calmed her breathing. She glanced at Ruanxi. Thank you very much, but I don't need it. Being her human cauldron? What use would a woman have for her? She frowned and looked at Ruanxi, who had her head lowered. If you want to live well, hide your special body constitution well. Don't let anyone know. Otherwise, even if you enter a sect, you will be eaten alive if you are not careful. As she finished speaking, her gaze swept past the space bracelet on Ruanxi's wrist. She thought to herself, she must have kept all the things that those people gave her. After all, she knew that her clansmen wanted to do something to her. Naturally, she would not let those things leave her body. Take care of yourself. She retracted her gaze, and sat on Flying Feather as they headed in another direction. A few days later, in a forest, Fengjiu, dressed in red, was resting on a tree branch. His sleeves hung in the air and swayed gently with the breeze. In the forest, the silver wolf brought back the prey it had caught and placed it under a tree. Only then did it call out to its master on the tree. Master, the meat is here, and the branches are ready. It was a majestic mythological beast, a dignified wolf king. Following by its master's side, it was only useful for hunting prey and picking up branches. Yet it couldn't say anything. Fengjiu, who was on the tree, opened his eyes and rolled down from the sky. His red robes fluttered in the wind and leaves swirled in the air. Just as he was about to hit the ground, he turned and landed on his toes first, standing firmly on the ground. She reached out to stroke the wolf's head and said with a smile, "Well done." She carried the prey to the water source, and after a simple treatment, she took it back and roasted it. As the fire burned, crackling sounds could be heard from the branches. Chapter 27-23. If anyone saw this, they would definitely be astonished. The ferocious beasts in the forest were all standing there and watching, but they did not dare to take a step forward. One of the golden monkeys that had jumped onto the tree even held a few fruits in one hand and swung the tree vines forward. It threw the fruits in front of its chest to Fengjiu, then jumped onto the tree and looked at her with blinking eyes. Seeing the fruit that was suddenly thrown down, Fengjiu was startled. She glanced at the monkey and picked up the fruit again. After wiping it clean, she took a bite. The sweet and crispy taste in her mouth made her squint her eyes. She said to the monkey, "Thank you. Zhi. The monkey seemed to be very happy. It gestured with its hands in front of its body. Not long after, it jumped onto the tree branch and swung away. Not long after, it came back with the fruit and gave it to Fengjiu. And it's a different breed? Are there fruit trees here? Fengjiu said in surprise. She looked at the golden monkey that was squatting at the side. It seemed that the monkey was not afraid of her. It did not leave after giving the fruit, but squatted and looked at her. The silver wolf glanced at the monkey, then said to Fengjiu, "Master, there is a cliff about 500 meters away from here. There are some wild fruits growing halfway up the cliff. This monkey should have gone there to pick them." Fengjiu nodded and placed the fruit in front of her. She said, "These fruits are quite delicious." She said to the monkey, "Go and pick some more. I'll reward you with a pill." When the monkey heard this, it squeaked and ran off not long after. It jumped on the tree branch and squeaked. Gradually, it seemed that there were more monkeys in the forest. Fengjiu smiled. She took out some spices and sprinkled them on the roasted meat. She used a small knife to cut a piece to taste, and then cut another piece for Lang Lang. When she was eating the roasted meat, the golden monkey came back. What was different was that this time, it was followed by dozens of monkeys. Each of them was holding fresh fruits in their arms. Fengjiu was a little surprised to see the monkeys line up and put down the fresh fruit. They walked past her in an orderly manner and jumped onto the tree to squat. Finally, a few stronger monkeys carried a large vat and put it down in front of her. The golden monkey jumped up and down while squeaking. It pointed at the large vat and then looked at Fengjiu expectantly. Looking at this scene, her heart skipped a beat. This couldn't be. She stood up and opened the lid of the large vat. She smelled a rich wine fragrance drifting out. Smelling the rich wine fragrance, she couldn't help but take a deep breath, inhaling the wine fragrance into her body. What a fragrant monkey wine! Her eyes shone with surprise and a smile bloomed on her face. She took out a small wine cup from her space and scooped up a cup to taste it slowly. The rich spiritual power in her mouth, accompanied by the extremely mellow wine fragrance, spread on the tip of her tongue. As she swallowed that mouthful of wine, a burning sensation ignited in her body. As expected of the best quality monkey wine. She chuckled and looked at the golden monkey. She said, "I originally only wanted to give you an ordinary pill, but since you brought such a good monkey wine, I naturally have to give you a decent return gift." Chapter 27-24. It was a brown pill the size of a thumb. Seeing this, the monkey quickly took it and stuffed it into its mouth, as if it was afraid it would be snatched away. Fengjiu just chuckled and waved his hand, collecting the monkey wine into his space. The wine brewed by monkeys was a good thing that couldn't be bought outside. This big jar of monkey wine couldn't be brewed without many years. Grandfather liked wine, so if he saw this monkey wine, he would be very happy. After the monkey got the pill and swallowed it, it quickly left, as if it was going back to its cave. The group of little monkeys also disappeared behind it. After eating in the forest, the woman and the beast got up and left. As the two of them walked forward, the ferocious beasts in front of them naturally made way for them. She walked to the cliff 500 meters away and looked down. She saw that the bottom of the cliff was filled with smoke, and she could vaguely see the endless lush forest. And the place she wanted to go, she obviously had to pass through here. Thus, she called out her flying sword and had the silver wolf shrink and go down with her. However, when she gradually descended and passed through the smoke, she faintly felt a strong restrictive force. She suddenly lost control of her spiritual power, as if it suddenly disappeared. She lost her balance and fell down. "Damn it!" she cursed in a low voice. In the smoke, there were monkeys running up and down the mountainside, squeaking. A vine was thrown down by the monkey. She immediately reached out and grabbed it to stabilize her falling body. Looking back, she saw the silver wolf jump on a stone protruding from the mountainside. After a few leaps, it landed about 50 meters away from her and looked up at her. Squeak, squeak. The monkey squeaked and squatted on a big stone protruding from the mountainside, looking at Fengjiu. Fengjiu glanced at them and smiled. "Thanks." She let go of her hand and her body slid down. Her feet kicked on the side, borrowing the force to descend. About half an hour later, she reached the bottom of the cliff from the mountainside. The silver wolf jumped down and stopped at her feet. "Master, are you okay?" "I'm fine. It's just that my spiritual energy seems to have been blocked," she said with a frown. The map didn't indicate that there was a restriction here. Although she had come down, she couldn't seem to use her spiritual power. She didn't know if it was only in this area or if it was the same inside. "Let's go." As she spoke, she patted her robe and strode into the forest. Perhaps it was because there wasn't much sunlight here, but the forest was filled with a chilly air. Weeds grew everywhere, and she had to push aside the weeds that were about half a meter tall as she walked, making a path for herself. A small green snake coiled on a tree branch spat out its tongue. Its pair of ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes stared at Fengjiu. Suddenly, it leaped out and bit her neck. Fengjiu narrowed her eyes. She didn't know when a long sword appeared in her hand. With a wave of her sword, she chopped the snake into several pieces. Seeing that the snake's head was still twisting, she stabbed her sword into the ground, nailing the snake's head to the ground. Glancing at the snake, she looked at the endless forest and said to the silver wolf, "Go into the space." Before the silver wolf could respond, she had already taken it into the space. Chapter 27-25. Tun Yun was lying in a corner. Seeing that the silver wolf that had just entered had yet to form a contract with its master, it stared at it for a while, causing the silver wolf to shiver. It thought that its master only had one contracted beast, but where did all these strange animals of various sizes come from? Why were they all at the level of sacred beasts? Even a sacred beast like it had no choice but to obediently lower its head and restrain its ferociousness. It was shocked by the natural heaven and earth here, as well as the unique and pure spiritual aura. It greedily inhaled the air here, not daring to get too close to those few animals. It only obediently walked to a corner and lay down. "Hee, newcomer, no, you're not master's contracted beast yet." Lao Bai grinned, his eyes staring at the silver wolf. Wagging his tail, he walked forward step by step until he was in front of it. "Hey, get up, let's have a contest." Lao Bai used his hoof to nudge the silver wolf, indicating for it to stand up. "No, you're a sacred beast, I can't beat you," the silver wolf said very cowardly as it shrank back. Why did it feel that it was more dangerous inside than outside? "My battle strength is not strong," Lao Bai said very modestly, but his grin revealed a mouthful of white teeth, causing the silver wolf's body to tremble. Feng Jiu, who was outside, did not know what they were doing inside. At this moment, she was crossing the weeds that were half the height of a person. After leaving that place, the restriction on her seemed to have disappeared, and the spiritual aura in her body had recovered. And in front of her, what appeared was not a forest of weeds, but a messy forest of towering trees. What was strange was that the leaves of these trees were all red, and there were sharp thorns on the tree trunks. As far as the eye could see, there was no end, only a stretch of red. She had just walked through the forest of weeds, so she knew a little about it. She couldn't see the end of the forest, but it was possible that there was a cloud of smoke behind the mangrove forest that blocked her vision. After all, when she looked forward through the weeds, she could only see weeds and trees, but not this strange mangrove forest. She stood there without moving and did not take another step forward because she had a feeling that as long as she took a step forward, there might be some changes. After all, this place gave her a very strange feeling, especially the sharp thorns on the old tree, which made her feel that this place was potentially dangerous. After staring ahead for a while, she took out the map and looked at it again. In the corner of this strange mangrove forest, she saw a small mark. "Man-eating forest?" she murmured softly, feeling a little faint. Why was it called the man-eating forest? Could it be that there were ferocious beasts in this forest? Or her expression changed slightly, and her gaze fell on the blood-red leaves in the forest, as well as the sharp thorns on the tree trunks. It seemed that she had to go in to find out why it was called the man-eating forest. She collected her thoughts and put away the map, then walked forward. After walking 10 meters in, the surroundings were still quiet, and only the soft rustling of the leaves could be heard. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.